Hey everyone, it's Sean here with Proust Pets. As you can see, I'm not actually at Proust today. I'm actually in my own backyard. As you can see by the trees changing color, it's actually probably one of the last really nice days that we'll have before fall and then winter really start to hit us. So it's during this time of year that many people start to wonder what happens to the animals that we see all summer. So we know that birds like to fly south. We know that a lot of mammals make burrows, and we'll see them every once in a while on warmer days. But what happens to the reptiles? And so that's a really, really cool question and an interesting one, because it's not something a lot of us really think about hard about what an animal like that's going to do in the wintertime. So there's actually a few different things that happen. So we'll go over amphibians, and we'll go over snakes, and we'll go over turtles. So we'll start with turtles. Turtles actually go down to the bottom of their ponds, and they go into a hibernative state down there where they can slow down their metabolism, but they don't have to take in any food. And kind of an interesting thing with a lot of aquatic turtles is they can breathe in oxygen through the water. Now, for some animals, they can do this through the skin, but with a lot of turtles, they can do it through the cloaca, which is, if you look at their tail, it's basically their anus where they excrete their bodily functions. So they can pull in some water through there and separate the oxygen out of it, and then they can live off that oxygen very, very slowly. Now, there's a lot of lactic acid buildup that happens in their body during this time, and they're able to release that once they come up out of hibernation. And then as far as supplements and everything go, they can live off some of the body fat they had, and they can even start to pull calcium out of their own bones and shell to help supplement the body. Now, snakes do something a little bit different. Snakes go through a brumation period where they go down into a burrow, typically below the frost line, and they're not hibernating, they're not asleep like some animals would, but they are still awake, but their metabolism is slowed down extremely to the point that they don't really need food anymore. They can live off stored body fat from all the food that they ate all summer. Now, you've probably seen some videos if you've watched Planet Earth or any other nature shows like that of when snakes come up out of their brumation, and some of the highest concentrations of animals in one spot happen in Canada when a bunch of garter snakes come up out of the ground and they're rolling over top of each other, generating heat to help them warm up in the spring. You have aquatic frogs, things like bullfrogs and leopard frogs. They'll go down and burrow slightly into the mud at the bottom of ponds as well, where it doesn't freeze, and then they also go into a hibernative state. You have terrestrial frogs and toads, though, are a little bit different. They go into an estivation, which is where they bury themselves on land, but not completely, because if they did, they would suffocate. But they'll typically try to leave their nostrils and stuff up so they can still bring in air. They'll find cracks and logs and rocks and hide down in there. But then you have to wonder, why don't they freeze if they're not below the frost line? And that's because a lot of reptiles, well, I should say a lot of reptiles, a lot of amphibians in the northern hemisphere have certain things in their blood that basically act like antifreeze. This allows them to kind of half freeze in the winter, but then as they start to warm up, they can start flowing everything again. They don't freeze 100% completely. It's kind of, I guess I just compared to Captain America when he got frozen in the ice and then he came up out of it and he was alive. So reptiles and amphibians have a lot of really, really unique functions and ways that help them through their winter months and through cold spells. And some of these same reptiles and amphibians can do similar things when it's actually too hot out. If we get too extreme with warm or cold, they can't do it as well, and they could possibly perish. But for the most part, depending on where that reptile or amphibian is from, they are acclimated to the environment of that area, and they're able to tolerate such cold spells. So with it being warm out like it is now, you might still see some turtles and maybe some amphibians and snakes out. They might be getting some of their last meals and everything for the winter before going in either hibernating, brumating, or estivating. All these are various forms of hibernation. And sometimes we use them kind of interchangeably. I know even sometimes I get confused on them, and I have to double check on which ones do what. But essentially it all comes down to a slowing of the metabolism and a way of conserving energy to last them throughout cold months, and then being able to essentially just turn that off once the spring hits, and then they can go about their way. So hope you guys learned something, and we'll see you next time.